We're really excited to have Jen and Raf joining us to tell us their amazing story. Hey guys, welcome.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
So for those of you who haven't been following your journey on Empire Builders, could you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Sure. I'm Jen. This is Raf. We live in the Bangor area. Raf's a full-time anesthesiologist, and I was recently a family medicine physician and just got done to start my own med spa. And we took the course last summer, and since then have acquired 35 units.
Yeah, so we saw this post come up in Empire Builders, and we're like, had to have you on here because that's pretty remarkable. And you're in Maine. So can you tell us your journey to go from 0 units to, what is it, a year later, 35?
Yeah. So we had a condo that we owned from residency that we bought at the peak of the market and could not sell. So we ended up kind of becoming accidental landlords for that. And we rented that out for many years. And then we owned a camp on the lake in Maine that we ended up starting to do some short-term rentals for. So those were pre-existing before taking the course. And then once we started, it just kind of took off from there.
Yeah, so we actually went to Las Vegas to White Coat conference, investment conference. And so actually you, lady, talk about your course and your experience. And we said, we got to do this. So really, we went to the conference a couple of days before everything shut down before COVID.
Literally, I remember that.
Yeah,
it was
March.
It was March.
Exactly. So we actually flew back a day early because we were afraid we wouldn't be able to get back home. They shut down schools that Monday. So as soon as we kind of saw you speak about it and your experience, we signed up for the course that summer. And then once we started doing the course, we started looking at different markets and decided to actually do our local market, even though we thought about other markets out of state, but tried to do it locally first to see, if we can do this and how this would work out, especially knowing the area a little bit better. And even before the course was done, we started, putting offers in and acquiring properties. I think we had a few properties before even we finished the course. We just waited to learn the last parts about the reps and everything else. And we only had like 3 or 4 properties at that point. And then went from there. And then it was creative financing and kind of reaching out to different local banks, trying to do different things before the market became, a little bit crazy as it is these days. But we've
even acquired property since it has become crazy.
We actually are under contract for 2 properties right now. So we continue to do it, but we got creative in the beginning to make our money go much farther than we could normally. So
when you guys started out last year, did you know you were going to build such a big portfolio? Was that in your goals up front?
I would say it was in our long-term goal, but certainly not our first 12 months goal by any means. And not because we didn't want that to be our goal, but just because it just didn't seem possible to go from 0 to that many so quickly. So I think it was a long-term goal, but not one we realized would happen as fast as it did.
Yeah, I think our goal when we were first part of the course, it was about mentality and how you want to kind of figure out why you want to do this and what is your goal for longer term and why we're doing this. And obviously we had our goals for family time and, being able to spend time with our kids and actually financially being better off. And I think the goal was within 10 years to have about 120,000 of cash flow per year. So we can replace retirement money. So we still obviously have retirement accounts, but we wouldn't have to use them as much if we had this cash flow from real estate. And that would make us retire sooner. And actually, that goal happened in 9 to 10 months. So we're at about 120,000 now for cash flow from these properties. So, we're kind of slowing down the acquisition phase, but we're went there pretty quickly.
So for people who are hearing this and saying, how the heck did they do this? What are some of the keys that got you to where you are now?
I think for me, and Jen may have different ones. For me, it was a big mental thing. Telling yourself, yes, you can do this. It's scary because if you don't know anything about real estate, or even for people who haven't bought houses before or anything like that, it's definitely scary. But if you can go through residency, you can go through medicine, you can get the stress of keeping people alive every day. Pretty sure you can do this too. It's just mentality. It's hard work, but the more you put into it, the faster you learn. And obviously doing the course was a huge thing for us because we learned so much from it, and we used it as soon as we could. So we were literally staying up at night and listening to these podcasts and doing all these things and trying to figure out how do we do this, because it was so important for me to get to that goal, to retire sooner, to have the family time that we're missing, to have our kids, see us do this, and then maybe someday they can do it. And it's, I think for me, it's also a long-term wealth builder, for us and for family, and with taxes and everything else. So I think that was part of my thing, and mentality was a huge thing.
Yeah, and I think what part of our initial success too was our team. Like I feel like we got really, I don't want to say lucky because we did our research, but we really have a great agent. And I think what helped with that was just some of the creative offers that we made that we never would have come up on our own. And then from there, doing a lot of research about lenders and finding ones that were also willing to be creative. I think that just allowed us to do this a lot quicker than we ever thought was possible. So I'd say the team played a big part in that from the beginning.
Wow. Yeah. And talk to us about that, because I kind of read between the lines. I could sense that, everybody runs out of money, right? And so what I heard was maybe there were some creative offers and also creative financing that allowed you to spread your money out further and allow you to buy more properties. Can you talk about some of those? Like, do you have any examples of how you were able to creatively put in offers and also creatively finance?
Sure. So as far as money, so we had some savings we used, but we also, during COVID, you could cash out, about $100,000 per person from the 401k without penalty. You have to pay taxes on the next 3 years, but it also goes with reps for the following year. So you get some money out of the 401ks, not all of it, but we said we need some. And we got creative with our agent. Before the market was really crazy, some of the offers we've put in were offers where we'd put in the price, the full asking price. But then instead of getting a haircut later, we would say, we want credit at closing instead of getting money back. We called it kickback. And that's what our agent brought up to us. And we never thought that was possible. So we would put a down payment. And another creative thing was we went to a local federal credit union and asked them if they would do 10% down instead of 20% down on commercial loans. And they agreed. At least one of them agreed. So we did first 4 properties with 10% down, which was huge, because if you think that we could double our properties with the same amount of money. So we did 10% down. We also did the creative kickback. So we had, for example, one property, which I believe the price was $340,000 for 6 unit, and 10% down would have been $34,000. But then because we got a kickback, we negotiated that we'll get $25,000 credit at closing, which means our down payment went down from $34,000 to about $9,000. So we got this property for $9,000, which was insane. And then with that property, we were able to increase rents from $3,200 per month to about $5,500 per month in a few months.
With no improvements,
which we got lucky because it was a decent property. And now the cash on cash is like 197%, which is insane, because we've got the property for $9,000. And it was I don't know if it was luck or just research or a combination of both, but it was just amazing that once we did that one, I said, wow, we got to go after everything we can find.
Yeah. Well, we still can, while it's still a possibility.
Right. So we continue to work with that credit union, and they did few more 10% down, and then we did some with 20% down, like most people do. So,
well, that's relationships, right? You went and you asked. It's also asking. We always talk about, sometimes people are buying properties that are as is, and they're like, well, they said as is, I don't want to ask. Well, of course you're going to ask. Why not ask? What's the worst people can say is no. And you guys went, created a relationship, and then asked. So I think that's really a powerful point.
Well, I did want to also say that, it sounded like these were commercial properties. And for the audience who may not know, if you get a typical residential loan for an investment property, it's typically 25% down. So for commercial properties, the rules change. There are different lending rules that are not as restricted as a residential lender. So they can offer 10% loans in certain situations. And it sounds like, for good customers, when they have a good relationship with somebody, then they'll make exceptions and offer good terms. And wow, that's awesome. That really allowed you to spread that money out.
Yeah. And I will tell you, they've kind of tapped us out for a little while. They said, we want to see a good year of how you can do. So that's the only reason we moved on to other lenders. But then they said, give us a good year of this income and then come back to us and we'll continue to do it. So
yeah.
Now let's talk about how you managed to get the rents up from, I think they were like in the $3,000 range to the $5,500 range without doing any work. What is it you guys did?
So going back to what you were saying about just asking, we had a couple of the renters that were Section 8. And so we did the research that the going rate for Section 8 rents were much higher in that county. So just had our property manager reach out and see if they could increase the Section 8 rent, and they did. And so that alone increased a few of the rents.
And then as some of the tenants turned over, the market appraised for rents was much higher. So we increased the rents automatically for the next new tenant. So within 6 months out of the 6 units, we turned over, I want to say maybe 2 or 3, and then 2 Section 8 rents went up automatically, whatever the state could give us more. And then we end up with 5,500 in that unit, which literally we've done nothing to it. I mean, we've probably spent $100 inside just kind of touching things up.
And one thing, from the course too, I think people get into a routine of just having the same rent for people, just moving forward, and they don't kind of do that analysis of are we at a market value for our rent? And so once you start looking at that and seeing that they're way under, it wasn't a huge jump to go to increase the rents for the people that, as we turned over the units.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of under market rent. A lot of it is just people, maybe they have a relationship with the tenant, they don't want to raise the rents, or maybe they just don't even know, or they're doing the property management themselves and they're doing a terrible job and they're slumlords and they don't raise the rents. So that's a really good learning point.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell us about a couple more of your deals. I mean, obviously we're not going to be able to capture your whole journey, but can you tell us some of the challenges maybe you've gone through or some of the highlights?
Yeah, we had, obviously that's not all perfect. We've made mistakes, as everybody else does, and we learn from them. One of the properties we've had was, I believe, 8-unit property, which was spread out between 4 buildings. And we did our inspections just like we would for every property as much as possible. But we also made a mistake with trusting the previous owner that the pipes, all the water pipes underground are done the correct way, which they weren't, because what we found out that they were not under the frost line. And if you can imagine in Maine, that can be a problem when the pipes freeze in the middle of the winter, which is exactly what happened.
And this landlord was doing a lot of his own work. So again, we kind of just took it at face value that he knew what he was doing.
So what happened is in the middle of the winter, we have phone calls that there is no water, and there's 8 units without water all of a sudden. This is 20 degrees outside, and how do you repair this, and what do you do with renters? So basically what we did is we spent a lot of money, probably over $120,000 at this point, trying to fix all these pipes. And there were people digging into the ice to get to the ground in the middle of the winter, trying to get to the pipes. And we put up all the tenants in the hotel for almost 4 weeks. Because they didn't have a place to have with hot water. Luckily, that property, before we did all this, was amazing cash on cash, because we bought it again. We bought it in the same situation with 10% down with a huge kickback. So we got the property for $20,000 or $30,000, and it was like a $460,000 property. And so we, even after spending $120,000 in these repairs and the mistake that we made, we still were with cash on cash of about 16% at this point. And we did the same thing. There's at least a couple Section 8 people there, and we helped them apply, as our property manager did some of the applications, to apply to get COVID relief as well, funds from that. So there was money coming from the state automatically, which was nice during COVID, because as landlords during COVID, it was difficult if you didn't get rents. But yeah, that was a mistake we made, and we learned from it. So now we don't really trust a seller who says, "Oh yeah, it's done just fine, and I did it myself." We did have inspections, but we were new at this, didn't know that pipes underground could be a problem too. So
yeah, that was one of our first 3.
Yeah, it was probably first 3 properties. So that was probably a third one that we got to this, and we learned from that. But we we definitely are redoing it and rehabbing some of the units in there, and then we're actually cleaned it up a lot. So I think it's going to be fine in the future, and it's still bringing okay cash on cash. So
It was an expensive lesson.
it was an
to
expensive
learn.
lesson, but luckily didn't put us under for that property at least.
No.
And just so you know, we used to not do sewer inspections too. And we had one single family home that we purchased that had a pipe issue that now we
Although,
always
I
do
mean,
sewer
this is
inspections.
water intake, so I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, this is a different type of inspection.
Yeah.
I mean, this is underground. You'd have to make sure it's below the frost line. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
what
it's
inspections
very-
they
Right.
do.
You're
I
right.
don't know what would have triggered us to have done anything differently, honestly, like what would have made us think that it needed to be inspected more other than the shady.
And we did have
landlord.
inspections. It's just, the previous owner, we should have known better because he just didn't feel right to us. And we had a gut feeling like this guy is not the most trustworthy person. And we've seen him do work and it was fine, but it was not a professional contractor doing work. So we should have known better and said, wait a minute, let's double check this.
With this being one of your early properties, did you ever consider quitting, or did this kind of ever make you second guess your decisions about getting into real estate investing?
Well,
Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, thankfully, I mean, this was 6 months in because it happened like, February. So we were deep in at that point. So, and we kind of just knew that this was part of the risk. And since we had done all of our research and, calculated the numbers and we knew that this still made sense even after all of this.
Yeah.
So while it was really unfortunate at the time and
it was
very
painful.
frustrating.
It was definitely painful to see the cash go down and down and down and down as you're spending more money into repair. But then I guess mentality again saying, okay, wait a minute, we could have put 120 grand of rehab into this and it would have been still the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't rehabbed like we wanted, but even after 120 grand of this repair, we're still fine with cash on cash. So it still ended up doing fine. But yeah, we were way deep into that at that point. So we said, well, we're not quitting now.
Yeah.
And who's going to buy this property from us now with this kind of problem? So we have to fix this. We can't just put it back on the market because no one will take it. So we fixed it and it ended up being okay. And then we're repairing. And I actually, in that property, there's also a huge barn, which is in the add to it, which I'm going to rent to the contractor who's fixing all this in the winter. So he needs storage for his equipment. And I said, hey, I have this barn right here where you were fixing all these pipes last winter. So he's going to take it next month. And so that's additional income from that property. So it's just a kind of one door closes, the other one opens.
Some silver lining.
So.
Wow, extra hidden value for that
Mhm.
property, which I imagine you didn't even know you had maybe when you initially bought it, huh?
Right. We did. Well, we were thinking of doing storage units into that barn, but it was in rough shape. And, after spending 120,000, I don't think I had money to put more storage units into the barn. So luckily he said, I'll just take it as it is, and I'll just store my equipment in there because I have construction business. So it ended up being okay.
Incredible. Cool. And any other properties you want to highlight?
Yeah, so one interesting one is, and it has to do with Jen's transition from medicine kind of into real estate. We bought a property which was 7 residential units. In the back of the property, in front of it is a commercial space. There used to be a pool store. And we weren't sure what to do with the commercial space at first. We had the 7 residential units. We rehabbed the 2 units out of the 7 ourselves, myself, Jen, and actually we hired my father-in-law as our handyman who retired. And then he just wanted to do some work with us. So we put him on payroll and 3 of us were rehabbing the 3 units, getting some reps hours and doing a lot of work ourselves. And then the commercial space originally thought, okay, well, maybe we'll put more residential spaces in there.
That was our original thought.
Original plan. But then we went to the town and changing the zoning was difficult. I went to the meetings at the zoning office and, they were kind of not working with us. So I said, fine, we'll leave it commercial, but maybe I'll put something else in there. And at that point, Jen was transitioning from family medicine. I'll let you give yours. Sorry.
Transitioning from part-time family medicine, part-time medical aesthetics practice owner. And I did not want to do family medicine anymore. So I knew I was going to move to that more full time. And we were outgrowing the space. So it just seemed like kind of perfect timing to switch offices and pay us rent for the building rather than pay somebody else rent for the unit that I was renting.
Yeah, and the beauty of that one is that the commercial space that we're redoing for Jen's medical aesthetics practice, which not only it will be our own because we own the property, she will be paying the lease to us, to our real estate property. So we're using 2 separate LLCs for that. But then the cost segregation of that building, which we don't do this year, it's not only cost segregation of the building, but also cost segregation of the rehab that she's doing, which is huge because it qualifies for almost 100% of all the rehab as a depreciation. So it's almost like a double cost segregation before doing this new medical spa office in it. So even though we're putting a lot of money into have our office be really nice, it's going to come back next year at tax time. So I think that property ended up being actually really nice because now we have several residential units and Jen has her own medical spa office right there, and we own the whole thing.
Amazing. So are you going to charge rent, and are you going to like typical commercial spaces? Are you also going to charge like a triple net lease where you also charge the property taxes, utilities, and insurance?
Well, I have to negotiate with the boss.
Wait, the property owner has to negotiate with the medical
Right.
spa owner, right?
Medical
But
spa
it
owner,
seems
exactly.
like it's a good thing to do from the tax
Yeah.
From a
because
tax
it's an
perspective.
expense for her.
Yep.
And
yes.
so, now that's
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
off
We,
again.
we actually hadn't even
We haven't
discussed
thought about
that,
the
so
triple
that's
net. We definitely thought about the lease, and we already have a lease signed between the two of us, between our real estate property and her LLC as a spa on medical aesthetics. We have a lease signed, so we can show it to
But
the bank.
that
but
is definitely
we
something
can
you should.
change, do anything with it, obviously. So
Yeah.
that's a good idea, actually. So we might talk to that, and we may have to have a meeting to negotiate.
Yes, yes.
I think you should do a meeting to negotiate at the Four Seasons somewhere.
right,
Yes,
that's right.
I agree.
Exactly.
I agree. Yeah.
That sounds about
Sold.
right. Perfect.
Yeah, and I love the bonus depreciation too. I'm assuming you're talking about bonus depreciation
Yes.
with regard to all the improvements you're making to the
Mhm.
space, and we have some pictures of that that
Yeah.
will show the audience. But so essentially, what that means for the audience who may not know is that you're taking the entire cost of that, and essentially, it's going to be treated as a depreciation expense that you're gonna. It's going to essentially make the profit from the from that building go negative, significantly
Mhm.
negative, which
Yeah.
you can then shelter income if you have real estate professional status, which brings me to that topic. Is that something you're pursuing as well, real estate professional status?
Yeah. So because I've got done at my family medicine job, I'm just part-time at my medical aesthetics practice with the intention of getting real estate professional status this year. So I'm limiting my hours there to make sure that I am doing more in our real estate world than my aesthetics world. So that's our plan.
Yeah, and then so with reps, as you mentioned, we're already talked to cost segregation company. We have, we're going to cost segregate 6 properties, maybe even 7, including the aesthetics practice rehab, and that's huge as far as getting the cost segregation with rep status, 100% depreciation. The medical spa part is also, I guess, qualifies for QIP, which is qualified investment property or improvement property, I should say.
Improvement.
So that's where it comes. If you put 100,000 into it, it's almost 98,000 of it gets depreciated because it's part of that improvement. It's part of cost segregation. I checked with cost segregation companies and our CPA, and everyone agrees that's the correct way to do it. So from that property alone, we're getting all this depreciation back, and plus all the other ones. So we'll have one of the cost segregation companies we got from the course come up to Maine and go through all of them at once to do one trip on all 6 or 7 of them, and then do that with our CPA and with them. So that's a huge
you're
bonus.
Shelter income for years.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah,
Possibly. Yeah, we'll definitely see how much we want it first year and second year, or go from there.
Yeah, and for those watching, anything you don't use this year, you can carry forward to future years. So, wow.
And then also Jen, if we decide, if Jen doesn't want to do reps next year, because I'm still continuing to be full-time anesthesiologist, but if Jen wants to continue to grow her aesthetics practice, then that's fine. We don't have to do reps every year. We don't want to, but there's always a chance to do it, or she can continue to grow her business, and then we'll just do it this year with cost segregation, and then make all the money back that we've put into these properties.
Amazing.
And that's incredible too, because I just think about those properties that you put 9 or 10,000 into. I mean, you got a ton of bonus depreciation coming on those
Right.
properties because you get to bonus depreciate the whole structure of the building, and you only put in 9,000.
Yeah, I think for
Yeah,
most of us,
that's-
we're putting in 25% down, and then we're
Yeah.
getting that essentially
The
that
rehab.
amount back as a bonus
Mhm.
depreciation,
Yeah.
but very different in your situation.
Yeah, and that was beginning of before the market went really crazy. Now some of the more recent offers we've done, we couldn't do the kickbacks
Yeah.
because, as you know, it's seller's markets, so people won't take that. But luckily in the beginning we've done that, and we've done regular 20% down since then. We've recently acquired short-term rental, which we put down 20%, and it's actually on the same lake that we have our own camp, which we do a short-term rental. So it's kind of easier because I have a system set up there already. So I have the clean company, and I do Airbnb and VRBO myself. So we manage ourselves basically. So we've
Nice.
done the regular investment, or I would say it's regular 20% down payments, but the 10% definitely helped in the beginning, that's for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, hopefully we can get back to that again with some properties as we move
Right.
forward.
Are you with the short-term rental? Are you also going to get the tax benefits from that as well because you're self-managing?
Yes, yeah. So we're doing that. We talked to our CPA and put it in the schedule. I want to say I forgot the name of the schedule, but it's scheduled as something we provide to services. So we actually, interesting story how we did that one real quick is I found a private chef that's in our local area. And there used to be a chef who used to work at the hospital that I used to work in, and she opened a private chef business. So every time we went on vacation, there was these beautiful houses with private chefs in their houses if you wanted one. So they said, well, why can't we do that in Maine on the lake? So the short-term rental, I started doing private chef services for guests who wanted. So basically, I connected the private chef that I used to work at the hospital with and the renters, and they get in touch. So that's kind of a service we provide as to make it more look better with our CPA and taxes, saying we do provide services like hotels. So we can schedule that differently on our taxes, and we can write off all of the all of the costs with it. So basically, we don't get anything for it. I said to the private chef, it's just great for you. The guest will contact me. I'll contact you and say, here are the guests. They want a private chef for this night or for the whole week. And then you can go from there. The small business gets money, the guests are happy, and we get to say we have a service that we provide.
Wow. So you're doing hotel level services. So yeah, you get to put it on a Schedule C, I believe.
Exactly. Yes, that's
Yeah.
it. I forgot the name.
Okay.
It's Schedule C because we provide different services. So the clean company does one thing, but then we can do private chef. We can give them different things, and that way we can say legitimately it is a Schedule C property that we can write off all these things on short-term rental.
So cool.
Wow.
I love it.
So what are you guys thinking of doing with your portfolio going into next year? Do you have any new goals now that you've already met your 10-year goal?
I know. So we were talking about this like leading up into this interview, and I was saying I think we may push pause a little bit on the acquisition part of things and really just make sure everything that we're doing, we maximize everything that we're doing. All of the hidden value, we take advantage of that, make sure that the rents are where they should be, see if the expenses can be improved in any way. So I'd say more just like really tightening up what we have for now. I know Raf, he will never stop looking, and and so I wouldn't be surprised if there's more coming this year, properties as well, but I think our focus will be more on really tightening up what we have.
You guys got us hooked. I can't stop looking.
Yeah, I see a big property in your future.
I know those Redfin, alerts come up, and I'm like, scrolling through, and it's addicting.
Yeah, I think Jen is right. The efficiency phases. I think the acquisition phase will slow down throughout this year, and we'll finish up what we have. And I think the efficiency phase will kick in. And then I think I want to go through every property step by step and then get it as efficient as possible and get it on paper. And then, we'll see what happens next year, because, if Jen decides to do her business, then maybe more short-term rentals, because we probably wouldn't have reps, and I'm getting more into short-term rental market as well now. So there's always a chance of that, especially if we can get 10% down, there's that's a lot easier to do. But, I'm not surprised in the future, 1031 exchanges, going something bigger. I would love to exchange a few of these properties and go some bigger 20, 30 units, complex, instead of having, duplexes there or 4 units here. I think we definitely want to go bigger at some point.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
we're happy where we are. It's just, I think it'll just continue to grow, and as we're learning.
Yeah, and even just kind of consolidate a little bit, like maybe not a huge increase in the number of units, but just more consolidated.
Yeah, we love having the little chess pieces, right? These smaller properties.
Yeah.
Like you said, when you're looking at bigger properties, it just allows you to kind of go, okay, let's sell this one and this one, and then that'll be enough for the down payment for the next big one. So yeah, so we love having those options. Amazing.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for others considering real estate? Maybe they're looking at your story and starting to believe it's possible. What would you say to them?
The biggest thing is just do it. Honestly. I mean, I think I more so than Raf in the beginning was nervous. I really just didn't feel like I knew enough. And I felt like it was taking a chance that I wasn't prepared for. But once you just take that first step, everything just seems to kind of fall into place. Like it starts making sense. You taking the course, I knew the lingo, I knew the numbers that I was looking for. I feel like I'm educated on it now. And it just kind of ripping the Band-Aid on that first property just opened so many doors from there. So I think honestly, just do it. Just get that first property under your belt and it snowballs.
Yeah, I think working as a team is very important. So we, as Jen said, she was nervous in the beginning. And obviously I was a little bit nervous too, but I wasn't afraid to take the risk. So I said, let's do this. We got to go. We're buying properties before the course was even over. I was like, I'll learn about the rest of it, but we can get this one.
Yeah.
And so I think, working as a team is huge. And, I've said that before, I give Jen a lot of credit because she was so supportive of all this, because she could have been like, are you crazy? We have, we're both physicians, we have full-time jobs, we have the 401ks, like, what are we doing here? Like, we're fine the way we are. And I said, well, yeah, but we could be better. Things could be better for our family. We have spent so much more time with our kids now. It's crazy. Every weekend I can see my kids, and we put them to bed every night together. It's we have all this time that we didn't take. If we didn't take the chance, I don't think that would have happened. That's even more important than any money we can make. And on top of that, I see it as a growth in the future for our family, because we can leave those properties for the kids, and the day after we die, they can sell it and not pay any gains taxes on it, or they can continue to do it because they'll learn over time what we do from us, and we'll hire them to work and paint little apartments, whatever teaches them hard work. And I think that's huge. But really, teamwork is important. I think get a great team. We are lucky because our investment agent was our friend before, and she knew a lot because she had 100 units herself. So she knew everything from cash on cash. Everything we said from the course, she's like, oh yeah, I know. Yes, we can do this, we can do that. And that was great, because then we got an agent that knew exactly what we were talking about instead of just any other real estate agent. And then, once you build that team and the lending people and ask those questions, then once you have a good team, then it's so much easier, and it takes the stress away from you and being afraid to put that offer in. And just do it and just go with it. And what's the worst case? We can always sell that property. It's you can come out negative if you put money in the stock market and wait 10 years from it. Or we can buy the property and try it, and it'll probably open up doors to many other ones. Or if it doesn't work, you tried it, and you can say, I've tried this, and you can sell the property and probably be just fine. But once you try it, I think you're going to go with it, especially if you do the course. I mean, you know so much more than most people, and so much more
ahead of every,
Yeah, I mean, some of the real estate agents don't know half of the things we were talking about. I would meet the sellers, real estate agents, and they had no idea about cash on cash, about commercial spaces, and I was just like, how can you even be a real estate agent and not know this? We know this, but we know it because of the course. So I think that's important. So teamwork always.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your time and for joining us today and inspiring others.
Sure.
Thank you for having us.